I grew up in the South Bronx in the 1970s, and I really just started art making at a very early age. Like most kids, and like most kids, I tried to do what I could, and eventually got some good instruction as I went along, and sort of got to turn all that energy into something that was a lot more sort of constructed and focused rather than just like sort of drawing out of control pictures. And when I was a child, I would basically try to replicate what I saw in comic books, or definitely what I saw in movies. I would try to sort of take those memories home with me and reconstruct them as little stories. The stories I was creating in the comic book genre, it was a different world in the 1980s. The medium wasn't as respected as it is now, even though I was operating more or less at the time when Art Spiegelman had done Mouse, and that had won a Pulitzer and all that. It was hard when you're very serious about something that other people don't take seriously. So there were very fewer venues, and the thing that I was doing in my comics was very much a personal vision, and it wasn't like it is today, where it's accepted that sort of people write and draw their own stories and sort of put things together. So I pursued publishing while I was still in college, and got the door slammed in my face repeatedly. Thankfully, World War III Illustrated, which is probably the longest running anthology of its kind, they published me in 1991 when I was just out of college, and they've been home for most of my stories exclusively ever since. My collaboration with Heather and with Heather Harvey, who's directing Rita is the Goat, and the piece that's written and acted by Melanie Maria Godero. It started because I had done some interesting posters for Heather's last production for one of the Hamlet productions, and we just hit it off famously. We had a lot of the same sort of influences in kind and in common, and we just knew that we'd work together again. We just didn't know that we'd be fortunate enough to have it happen so soon. When Heather pitched me, what she wanted to do in terms of the mood she wanted to create, I thought immediately that projections would be the way to go, because this is a story about ghosts and about memory and about ethereal sort of presences in someone's life. I don't know that I necessarily believe in ghosts, but I do believe people can be haunted by memory in a way that may as well effectively be something supernatural. And projection just seemed like a really good vehicle for that. I'd also not seen it done terribly well a lot of the time, so I wanted to see if we could lick it, Heather and I, and really do something interesting. And in talking, briefly with Melanie, and the fact that it does take place in the South, one of the things I wanted to get away from is, black is an immediately abstract color in media. If you look at film noir, shadows are the same color as blood because it's this sort of dark, lightless range. So I wanted to get away from using that as a local color for absence, and instead establish indigo blue, which to me felt very Southern, very Gothic, and my impressions of places like Louisiana, just sort of, breezily spending very little time in those places. That's, as an outsider, that's the feel, the sort of color signature that I got, which was as much a temperature, as much a light situation, as much as sound all together. It felt like the color blue, was what we would use in the place of black for shadows. For me, designing sets are all about looking at the text and enabling a particular performance. And if you can sort of really keep those things in mind, you'll come up with something compelling that will at once impress the audience, but won't compete with the performer or the text. And that to me is very important.